In 2025, the world bought $3 trillion worth of oil, almost all of it paid in one currency, not because it was the strongest or most stable, but because of a secret deal made in a Saudi desert in 1974. It's called the Petrodollar, the most powerful financial system you've never been taught. August 15, 1971, President Richard Nixon went on television and said, "I have directed Secretary Connolly to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold." Here's what happened. Since the end of World War II, the dollar had been backed by gold under a system called Bretton Woods. Any country holding dollars could exchange them for gold. That arrangement made the dollar the most trusted currency on earth. But America had been printing far more dollars than it had gold to back them. The funding wars, social programs, and Cold War spending. Countries noticed, and one by one, they started demanding their gold back. So Nixon shut the window. No more gold for dollars. The dollar was now backed by nothing, just trust. And trust was not exactly trusted. Then things got worse. In October 1973, Egypt and Syria launched a surprise attack on Israel in the Yom Kippur War. The United States backed Israel with a massive airlift of weapons. In response, Arab oil producers in OPEC used the most powerful weapon they had, oil. They slashed production and embargoed the United States. The price of oil exploded from about $3 a barrel to nearly $12. Gas stations ran dry. Lines stretched for blocks. Sorry, no gas today became normal. Now America had a currency with no gold behind it, rising inflation, and the world's most important commodity being used like a weapon. Not ideal. America needed a new plan, a new anchor for the dollar. Something every country needs. Something so essential the whole world would have no choice but to keep using US dollars. Enter Henry Kissinger. He went to Saudi Arabia with a deal. You sell your oil in US dollars. You invest the surplus back into US Treasury bonds. And in return, we keep you safe. We provide military protection. In 1974, Saudi Arabia agreed. Within a year, other OPEC members followed. Now, if any country wanted oil, it first needed dollars. Just like that, the petrodollar system was born. But the real genius wasn't just selling oil in dollars. It was what happened to those dollars next. First, oil is priced in dollars, meaning global demand for the currency is constant. Second, oil exporters accumulate massive amounts of dollars, more than they can spend domestically. So, those dollars get reinvested back into the US economy, into treasury bonds, banks, and financial markets. This is called petrodollar recycling. Third, America uses that recycled money to fund itself, financing government spending, keeping interest rates lower, and supporting the very system that protects the oil supply. It's a loop, a powerful one. America doesn't need to sell the oil. It just needs the world to keep using dollars to buy it. By the 1980s, the system was in full swing. The dollar dominated global reserves. US Treasury bonds became the world's safest asset. American financial markets became the center of global capital. America could borrow cheaply, run large deficits, and push much of the inflation onto the rest of the world. Economists called it an exorbitant privilege. But the real power wasn't just economic, and it was control. The dollar became global infrastructure. Trade, banking, reserves, payments, everything ran through it. And that made sanctions incredibly powerful. Being cut off from the dollar system is like being removed from the global financial grid. In 2022, after Russia invaded Ukraine, the United States froze hundreds of billions of dollars in Russian reserves and cut major banks off from the system. That didn't just hurt Russia, it sent a message to the world. Your money is only yours as long as the system allows it. Countries noticed. China reduced its holdings of US treasuries and increased gold reserves. Russia and China shifted trade into their own currencies. Others followed. The dollar's share of global reserves began to decline, slowly but noticeably. At the same time, the world began changing. Electric vehicles started reducing oil dependence. 1 in 4 cars sold in 2025 is electric. If oil demand falls, so does structural demand for dollars. Still, the system isn't collapsing. The dollar remains dominant in global trade and finance. But for the first time in decades, it faces real competition. Not one challenger, many. The world is becoming more fragmented. The system still stands, but it's no longer unchallenged. And for the first time in a long time, people are starting to ask a simple question: what actually backs money?